Greetings and salutations, everybody. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. You are watching Raven Review. I am your host, Raven, and today we are going to be covering Star Wars Lost Star by Claudia Gray, I believe is her name. So I'm going to really try really hard for you guys not to ruin this book too much, but give you a basics of what the book is about. So the book starts off as kind of right after Return or Revenge of the Sith. And you have our two main characters, which is Thane and Ciena, which I'm probably mispronouncing her name, so I do apologize. They're around 7-8 years old. Thane is from a privileged family, or the second waivers. Ciena is from the valley, or the first waivers. The first waivers have different values. They're more poor and stuff like that. And they live more off the land and stuff like that. So that's where her core is. It's about honor and respect and stuff like that. And then there's Thane, who comes from, like I said, the privileged side. So there's money and stuff like that. But they become friends because they decide to sneak onto an Imperial ship because the Imperials have taken over their planet and are kind of doing what the Empire does. Well, Grand Admiral Thrawn finds them. He talks to them, encourages them to join the Empire and stuff like that. And that's what starts, or some of the reason why they start down the path of joining the Empire. So as time goes on, eventually they do join the Academy. They go through all the rankings and stuff like that to get through. By this time, we're at the Battle of Endor, which is New Hope. So we go through that whole entire thing. Eventually you get to Eldaron and that being blown up and how our two characters deal with that. Eventually, the two of them start to become a little bit more closer. Instead of being just best friends, they start growing an attraction to one another and start falling in love with each other. Thane starts seeing the evils of the Empire and starts pushing and distancing himself from the Empire. But Ciena, she's got her honor and her promises that she believes, and she's not going to leave the Empire because of her blind faith of the Empire doing the right thing, and she sees the rebels as terrorists, which basically they really are. Eventually, Thane, he does join the rebels. Ciena stays with the Empire. You go through the entire process of Hoth and all the elements that have to deal with that. Eventually, then Thane really gets involved with the rebel force after Hoth. Ciena, she starts going up in rank and stuff like that. Figures out that Thane has joined the rebellion because she starts looking over footage and stuff like that in order to help the Empire defeat the rebels, to see what weak points that they had and things that they could do better next time they do face the rebels. But she notices the way that Thane flies. Of all people, she knows how Thane flies. So eventually she tracks him down and stuff like that because he's considered a deserter and stuff like that. She tracks him down. Some stuff happens there. And he goes on the run. So I'm kind of putting some of this stuff out of order. That way I don't ruin the book. So just go with it. I don't, like I said, I don't want to ruin the book too much. So I'm kind of putting some things out of order on purpose, just to let you guys know. So that way I don't get any comments down below saying, well, this happened, this and da da da. So it's on purpose. So anyways, eventually they get to Endor, and they realize, Ciena realizes that they built another Death Star, and that's when she starts realizing that she has blind faith in the Empire. But she does have a promise to the Empire, and she promised that she would serve the Empire. So that's her motivation still. Thane, on the other hand, is just trying to do his best to live with the fact that his best friend and lover is still part of the Empire, and he does not want to kill her, and that's a big fear for him. So after Endor is ended, some stuff happens to Ciena, but eventually she does become captain of a ship, and that's when we get into Jakku, and the book pretty much wraps itself up, and you find out some events, and it's got a good ending. You find out who the antagonist is, which me revealing that will ruin the book, so I'm not going to say who it is. It does leave it open for more stuff to continue with these two characters. If that will ever happen, I do not know. So that pretty much wraps up the whole book without hopefully ruining anything too much. So as far as my thoughts of the book, a lot of people told me before I got into this that it's like a Romeo Juliet thing. I didn't really see that as Romeo and Juliet. That wasn't the impression I got from this book. There wasn't that element there. I didn't see these two characters do the whole Romeo and Juliet thing. Romeo and Juliet was basically they fell in love with each other, and there were forces trying to keep them apart and stuff like that, and there was families, and everybody knew, who Romeo was and who Juliet was and why they needed to be kept separate from each other. This one was like, not a lot of people knew about the fact that these two were secretly lovers, and they cared for each other and loved each other, and they had this bond that couldn't be broken, and how the Force always brought them together and stuff like that. It was, there is a love story in the story of this book, but it was more a progression of seeing two people go through what we know as the first trilogy, even though it's the second trilogy, but to old Star Wars fans, it's the first trilogy. I really enjoyed the book. I highly enjoy it. I'm sorry that the video is going so long. We're already at somewhere like 9 minutes or some shit. But I just wanted to really cover this book because it was just so good, and I wanted to get I want to get my details for you guys, right? And it's a really good book. And the story is decent. Some people said it's boring, and there are a couple parts that's boring, but it's a lot of character development, and there are other characters that are in the book, and some of them do pass away and stuff like that. but when they pass away, you develop a I would say an idea of who they are. There's a lot of character development in this book, and it's very well done. And Miss Gray does just a wonderful way of how she writes and what she does with the pen and stuff like that. And you get to see Sion's point of view, like she really establishes like what her point of view is, and you really get to see Thane's point of view of how he sees things, and their emotions and their ups and their downs and their highs and their lows, and how he really feels about it, and how he uses his knowledge of being an ex-Imperial to help the rebel force, and how Cien's like, that's Thane. I know that's Thane. He's the only one that would know something like this. And it's just really good, and how it just kind of goes back and forth, and it's just very well done. And I really appreciate how the book just ends the way it does. It's a good ending. It kind of leaves it open-ended, like there could be more, but if there isn't more, you're still happy with what you get at the end. And I think that's really great as far as the writing goes. So, after all that babbling, I am going to rate this book as... buy it? Yeah, I'm going to definitely say buy it. Buy this book. I haven't had any complaints really with any of the Star Wars books, to be honest with you. I've enjoyed pretty much all of the literature so far that I've read when it comes to the Star Wars canon Disney books. They've been all really good books so far. The movies, I can't say so much. But this book, I've been wanting to read this book for a really long time. And it's been out for a while, and it's just really decent. I think if you're a real good Star Wars fan and you really love Star Wars, you're going to like this book. There is a lot of cameos and stuff like that of, Leia and Darth Vader and Palpatine and mentioning of Skywalker and stuff like that, and Lando, and, the characters that we do know, they do pop up in the book. But overall, like I said, it's a great book. Definitely check it out. Well worth it. And I'll give you guys a link down below to a bookstore that I go to. They're basically thrift books, but you can get them really cheap. You can get hard copies and a whole bunch of other things. I don't work for this company at all. That's the actual name of the book. It's called Thrift Books. So definitely check them out. They've got a lot of really neat books for a really cheap price. And yeah. So enough of my babbling. I hope you guys enjoy the review. Please leave a comment down below if you liked it. Give it a like. And all that other stuff. And like always, don't forget to give somebody a hug. May change their day, may change their life. And I'm Raven, and we'll talk to you all later. Thank you so much for listening. I do appreciate it a lot. And we'll talk to you all later. Bye.